Hello everybody, this is Sarah's Soiled Plant and welcome back to my channel. It's snowing outside, it's overcast, so it's a casual, comfy, cozy day for me today. These poor plants are going to be put, finally, into this terrarium that I bought back at the end of October. I've had it forever, fully with the intention of putting plants into it, and it's just been delayed time after time after time, so I'm finally going to get to it today. I made a big ol' soil batch mixture over here, and I made sure to not add perlite to this one just so that it looks a little bit better. You don't have all the white spots in it. So I added more orchid bark and more aerating ingredients to supplement the perlite, but I did pre-make that just for, time's consideration. The two plants that I bought specifically for the terrarium are my two jewel orchids. I have this one right here, which is doing really well. It keeps growing, and these ones are pretty easy to grow in general. This other one is not doing quite so hot. It's grown a few leaves and lost a few leaves, but it's very droopy right now. It's just not happy. It's been wanting to be potted up for a while now, so hopefully that will kind of kick its spirits up. My supplemental plants, I may not use all of these. I have a little fern, I have a philodendron moonlight, and then this little peperomia. The label says it's peperomia lemon lime. I don't know if that's true or not. This is actually the only peperomia I own. Some combination of these two with some of these plants will be going into the terrarium. I'm gonna take this off. I did mix up a big batch of soil. I think once I'm done with this shouldn't take too much soil, that I might actually pot up a few other things that need to be potted up and have kind of been waiting. So I'll see how much I have left over to see what else I'll be potting up. I'm not exactly sure. It is, the middle of January, so ideally I wouldn't be potting anything up, but some of these plants, especially this little jewel orchid right here, is just like begging to be put in a pot. It's just so angry with me. It's very disappointed. So I want to make sure that gets put away as soon as possible. So let's start with taking the main two out of the pots here. I bought both of these from a local grower who is selling them on Facebook. And you gotta support local, of course. You can kind of get these anywhere, but I wanted to make sure I supported a local grower. So I got these from a local grower, which they put everything. This one looks to be entirely in moss, which is fine. The other one seems to have soil surrounded by moss, so we'll see. They definitely use some good quality moss though. This is nice stuff. I've actually never seen orchid roots before, so this is fun. They're kind of tubular. They look like they have tubers, which is kind of fun. And there's definitely a lot of moss like clinging to this one root. Okay, so that is that one. It almost looks like I can split it in two, but I won't, at least not at this point. So then let's look at this one. This one looks like it's actually in a dirt pod that is surrounded by moss. So let's check this one out. Yeah, this one is definitely a little dirt pod thing. I'm gonna take this paper off. Oh, did it just come right out? It just came right out. So this doesn't have a ton of root going on. Let's hope that we can get that to rebound there. Get a nice layer going in the bottom. So I gotta make sure it stays within the sort of sphere, because the glass goes straight up and down like that. So I wanna make sure that it's not too wide reaching. Put this little guy over here. He looks like he can kind of go wherever. This one is a little big, but we're gonna try to have this guy kind of facing on the edge and facing towards the center a little bit. I'm gonna use the old pot and use that as a scooper. Tack it around that a little bit. Squeeze that one in. Okay, all right. So I think what I'll do is put that guy on the opposite side and then two on either side here. I'm gonna probably, let's scope this out a little bit. So I can put peperomia there, a little fern, this guy, and like that. I think there's plenty of room for all of these guys, I think, in here. I definitely think so. Let me see. Here, this guy's gonna be a little full, like that. Oh, I like that. And then the little jewel orchid right there. Ooh, I like that. Okay. So that's the strategy, I think. So I'm gonna pot up the little jewel orchid last because it doesn't have really any roots to speak of. So I don't have to dig a gigantic hole for that. So let me take this fern out. It looks like it needed to be watered anyway because it is just crumbling. And I've got another one of these little pods. I know they're supposed to be able to disintegrate, but I'm still gonna take it out of that little pond, that little wrapping. That was harder to take off than I thought, that little wrapping. That is one. So I'm gonna take all of them out, I think. Just one after the other so that I can just pot up right away and pot them all up at the same time. Come on. All right, this one does not have a pod and it looks like it's 3 different plants. I'm not going to disturb the roots too much on these. Like, the pots aren't very big. I don't know how long they've been potted up in these little guys. Yeah, this one also has one of those little wrappings on it. I really don't like those. I know why people do it, but I don't like it. So I'm going to carefully kind of rip that away. Oops. I ripped a root. Oh no, I'm trying not to rip roots, but it's kind of unavoidable when they're woven into those little fabric things. So now, how did I have that arranged again? Okay, I think I remember now. So I'm going to put this one right here. I will fill the back and sides around it and just gently pack it in. Perfect. And then I had the moonlight on the other side. So I'm going to spin it a little bit so that the leaves aren't going to be under the edge of the glass there. Pack it. Lightly pressing that in just so that there's no gaps for the roots and the roots can take hold of that soil. Add a little more soil here. These 3 little peperomia plants, these little guys right here. I should move it over a tad just so these plants have a little bit of room to grow outward and not be on top of each other quite so much. Cute! So now I'm going to make a little channel here for this guy. Just drop him in. I do wonder if that's a little too much room. If they should have packed that in a little tighter, I'm not sure. I've never made a terrarium before. I'm not sure how much, space they need in between all the plants because I'm sure the roots will intertwine and all of that eventually. But with this guy, he has like one lone little root and all these other ones have a little bit more expansive root system. So hopefully that is sufficient and not, hopefully they aren't, swimming in all of this space. Hopefully this isn't too much. And the soil has some moisture in it right now. So I want to water it a little bit, but I don't think I want to water it as I would if this had drainage. Clean up the edges for all that little soil that's kind of accumulating on the edge there. I'm going to clean my dome here. It's gotten a little dusty and accumulated some cat hair and things over time. Clean the inside. Perfect. Oh, I can't believe that took me so long to do. It looks so good. Oh, it looks great. Here, let me give you a close-up. Oh, here it is. You can see right through the top there. Let me take the dome off. So we've got 2 jewel orchids right there and this little guy right here. And then a little fern, completely separate roots. So hopefully that won't be too crowded. This little peperomia and then a little philodendron moonlight on this side. So that is my finished terrarium. The soil itself already has some dampness to it because of my coir, but I do want to make sure it has a little bit more moisture than that. So I'm actually going to just use a spray bottle and kind of just go to town on it instead of watering it with a watering can. I really don't think it needs a ton of water right now. I just want to make sure there's enough in there to kind of build up the humidity in the dome and everything. So I'm just going to spray. And all I have in here is distilled water. There's nothing else in there. Now that it is now all saturated, I'm going to put a little dome on top. And I will put it probably on my coffee table. It gets good light from there. It's about, I don't know, 6 feet probably from a south-facing window. So I think that'll be a good spot for it. That's kind of my intention from when I first bought it, was to put it on that coffee table. So that's where it's gonna go. But I do have one other plant that I wanted to pot up. This is my Philodendron Plowmanii cutting that I took during my massacre video. It is in desperate need of a potted up. You can see the insane root structure it's got going on right now. But the roots on the Plowmanii, the older ones are brown and they've got little fuzzies on them, and that's kind of cool. They almost look insect-like. But all of the brand new roots, like even on the old roots as it's growing, the new root at the very end and the little, I don't know, perpendicular roots, I don't know the technical term, but all of these little side roots are also bright red. And that's just like a fun little thing I did not know when I potted or when I cut this off. For this cutting, I really wanted it to be in a particular type of pot that is long but still has drainage holes, and everything I've found that's long like that is for like succulents and things like that. It just wasn't what I was looking for now, because it really needs to be potted up. Like, these roots are, you know, 8 inches long. They definitely need to be needs to be potted up pretty much immediately. I'm really concerned that I don't have the right pot for it. I know I don't. I'm gonna put it in kind of the biggest ceramic pot I have, but this one is a runner as opposed to a climber. I mean, it could climb too, I bet, but for the most part it runs along the ground much like a gloriosum. It doesn't want to grow up a pole necessarily, it wants to crawl along the ground. I wish I had a pot that was more shallow and long and wide for this plant, because I think it would be happier, but I think potting it up is more important than giving it the exact pot it needs, at least right now. So I'll still keep an eye out for a good pot for this. I haven't found very many solutions on Instagram or anywhere else for that matter for this type of thing, but I am definitely gonna start potting this up because Lord knows she needs it. The hole in the bottom of this pot is gigantic. It's like the size of a quarter. So I'm gonna use one of these little mesh cage things that I bought off of Amazon and putting it right in the bottom just so that it can stop most of the soil from going out, but it won't stop the water from draining. Okay, some soil in the bottom, and I'm just gonna stick this in there. Gotta figure out the right method here to make this work. So this is the problem with crawling plants, is, you know, how do you position them so that they're happy? Because they want to go this way, but if I put it that way, it's going to already be hanging off of the pot. And the way the root ball in the bottom is, it's going to be basically jammed up against one side. And I want to avoid that. Part of me is thinking I should plant it straight up and down, and then just naturally it will start bending the way it wants. I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. I might be just ruining this plant for all I know. But I'm going to try to have it just go straight up and down, and hopefully it'll kind of correct itself, because I really don't want to have this hanging all the way outside of the pot like immediately after I've potted this up. You know, I want it to have a better fighting chance than that. So I'm going to try planting it straight up and down. We'll see what happens. I'm just going to dump soil in here. Every time, I never have quite enough soil for the project I'm doing, so I always have to make, you know, a quick batch for some supplemental soil, because I need, I don't know, like, I need about 2 inches more of soil line for this to work. Like, go figure. Of course I do. I'm gonna make a little bit more soil and I'll be right back. Right, I made a little bit more of my mixture. I made a little bit more than I probably thought I needed, just in case. I certainly don't want to have to make a 3rd batch of soil, but also if I have extra, I can just toss it in some of my other plants that look a little bit low. So let's dump it. Okay, and spin around, dump it again. See, and it turned out to be the exact right amount I needed. Always aim on the side of making more soil if you make your own, because, oh my gosh, having to remake soil a bunch of times is such a pain. Also, volumes can be deceiving. So there we go. I've planted my Plowmanii straight up and down. It's probably gonna hate me. It's probably gonna revolt and, you know, cause some issues. And that's okay. I deserve it. It's not the plant's fault that I potted it up wrong, but hopefully it responds okay and isn't too angry with me. If you're wondering why the edges of my leaves are kind of yellow and discolored, that is because I have been over-fertilizing my plants by accident. This one especially does not seem too happy with me and my techniques. Don't over-fertilize or you're gonna get plants that look like this. It'll rebound okay, and I've corrected the mistakes I made, so it'll be fine, but for right now, you know, that's what the plant looks like, unfortunately. The last thing I'm going to do with both of my plants is add my systemic insect control. This is my old bottle. I have a new one to replace it. Now, what this is supposed to do is get into the bulk of your plant. So it goes in the soil. So I sprinkle a little bit on the top of the soil and I work it in with a fork. You can use whatever you want, really. I just really recommend not having it be something that you would eat with, because this is definitely bad for you. Don't eat this. And what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to get into the plant via the roots and actually be sucked up into the plant itself. And that way, if you have any bugs that are sort of munching bugs, so this will not work for fungus gnats, but if you have thrips, if you have spider mites, if you have, forgetting bugs, mealy bugs, that's the other one, there we go. If you have bugs like that that will chomp on your plant, it's supposed to kill the bugs that are chewing on your plant. So it's a good long-term solution. I think it says on the bottle that it's supposed to work for about 8 weeks for each treatment you do. I try to add it to pretty much all of my plants like twice a year. I could probably stand to do it once a quarter instead of twice a year, and maybe I should start. I have found it to be pretty effective at keeping bugs at bay. I don't ever get really thrips or mealybugs anymore. Yeah, it's really good at keeping bugs at bay. So that's one of my bug preventative treatments, but I try to use that whenever I freshly plant a pot. The other thing I do when I first pot up a plant, I add that systemic insect control, but I also put mosquito bits into the soil in order to prevent fungus gnats. And I found that that's pretty good at preventing, and it's one of the well-known remedies for getting rid of fungus gnats. So those are the 2 things I do for pest control when I'm doing new soil, potting up, all of that. At least I try to. Sometimes I forget. It can be easy to forget, but I try to remember to do those 2 things every time I pot up a new plant. I think that does it. I think that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you next time. Bye!